Yes, people, we're back with a real important topic. This does not get spoken enough in the space, and definitely not enough on YouTube. So, we're going to be going over how to price your products, how to price for your first client, and if you're pricing too high or pricing too low, the effects that this can have on you. So, an agency owner, a coach, just getting into the new digital space, a growth operator, if you're in the digital agency space, this is pretty much for you. Now, I'm going to make myself a little bit smaller and let's get straight into it. So, firstly, why you should not be pricing yourself too low. And there's quite a few reasons. Firstly, and the most important, is that you're going to be seen as inadequate. So, what does this mean? You're not going to be seen as superior in your field, and that is because you're not pricing accordingly. Now, overpricing is something that we'll get to shortly, but if you price too low, people are going to associate that with bad quality, and therefore you're not actually going to get more work. Additionally, the clients that you're going to receive that are willing to pay that low price point are going to be more headache clients, and they're not going to be the sort of dream client that you want to work with and make all your money. Also, you're going to be overworking yourself. I know a lot of people that get into this space, especially when they're starting out, and they don't value their work and their time. Because at the end of the day, we all want to get high ticket clients, we all want to work really hard, and we all want to earn 10, 20, 30, 50, 100K a month. And that is all doable. But starting out, make sure you don't burn out, because a lot of people, they get overworked, they work on free trials, all these sort of things that other people have said, oh yeah, don't actually end up being beneficial. Now, the last point I want to go over through is unqualified. This is kind of tying in as the first point that I've spoken about, the inadequate point. People associate low price points with low quality, and they also associate that with not being qualified enough to do their work to the standard that they want. Now, if you're pricing too high, on the other hand, there's a few problems here as well. Because when you're going to be approaching your client, especially if this is your first client, then you're going to be getting objections, and they majorly will be about the price. And a lot of the salespeople say it's all smokes and screens, but if you've got no case studies, no reviews, nothing to back you, you can't go out there and expect someone to pay $3,000 to $5,000 blindly. It just doesn't happen in the real world. Now, additionally, you might be overcompensating for the skill set that you think you have. So you're pricing higher, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the quality of work that you perceive yourself to be doing is matching that price point. Now, before I move on to the case studies, there is obviously a factor of people that are paying X amount for a service. But if all the competition around you is pricing at 4K, for example, and you're pricing at 12, no one's going to pay that. You know, people are smart. If you're working with businesses, they're smart, they're savvy. They might not be technologically savvy, but to have a business and to own it, they're savvy business owners. If you're working with growth operating partners and you're doing a percentage split deal, additionally, you don't want to take the mick, because at the end of the day, that creator can drop you at any chance. Contract is just literally a piece of paper. It doesn't apply unless you're going to go all out and sue them. And who's got time and money to do that, anyways? Now, when you're first starting out, the case studies may be a problem, which is why you can't charge that high ticket 3 to 5 grand that everyone says. So the little boxes here, 550, 500. Imagine if you had zero, you can't charge 5K. But imagine if you had five, you might be able to charge 2.5K. Now I'm talking about upfront money. Now, if you had 50 case studies, you might be able to charge 3.5, 4, for example. And if you have 500, you're surely going to be able to charge 5K onwards. These are just rough numbers. Don't take them into, literal account. I know people in the comments giving like, 3K, 4K, I charge 10K and I get piff. And then just shut up, bro. But yeah, if you have zero case studies though, which is where mostly the beginners suffer, because getting your first client is obviously the hardest. Once you have that first case study on board, wherever you be doing GO, growth operating, or regardless if you're doing working in the agency space, getting that first case study on board is the hardest. Now, I recommend this. Do not work for free. And I'll tell you why. If you work for free, you have no commitment from that client, which means that client, they can get up and leave whenever they want. But not only that, they are not willing to participate as much as you need them to in that process, because business is a two-way street. You give and you receive. So if you're working for free, people might not value you as much. They might not think of you and your service as and appreciate as much as they should do. And in return, they might not, operate, especially in the growth operating sector. A lot of these creators and influencers, they all have an ego. So working for free, I don't actually recommend it. And then that kind of ties in already with the tone of the relationship. It isn't, a relationship that you kind of want. It isn't a healthy client to be client facing relationship that you can take and prolong as well, because you don't want to be just working with a client for a month or 2 months. You want to be working with them for a extended period of time. So there's actually a few ways to go about this. There's probably way more than this, but this is the main three that just came right to my head. So we've got the retainer model, which used to work back in like 2010 and 12 when Facebook ads were popping and everything. And this still does work. The retainer model does work, but I just don't think you're earning as much as you can. So yeah, retainer model, if you don't know how it works, you're on about 2 to 3 grand. It can even be more, like 5 or 6, even 10, I've heard. And they pay you monthly a retainer fee. It is what it is. Now, free trial, this is what I don't recommend. Just purely for all the reasons I highlighted above. Now, lastly, is this percentage deal. So this percentage deal, you probably find it a lot more in the growth operating sector, where you say, look, I'm going to work for a percentage. If we make 10 grand, for example, I get 30%, you get the 70%, aka the creator gets the vast majority and you get, the least majority. This over here, this is the hybrid model. This is something that I quite like using, still use it up to there now. And it's not really complicated. It's no loads of fancy arrows or diagrams. It literally does what it says. So you collect a small upfront fee, and that is really important because you want to have your client committed. If someone gives up their money, it means they're committed to the cause, so they're going to be more perceptive of all your ideas. They're going to listen. They're going to actually communicate with you. So it does kind of break that sort of barrier that a lot of people have issues with, especially in the growth operator niche. Now, what I would structure this out to be is, for example, it's 2,500 for PIF, so paid in full. I'll take, let's say, 500 or 1,000 up front. Then whatever's left, once we reach, let's say, it's 30 leads or 30 new clients or whatever it may be, once we reach there, we get paid the rest of the money. Now, bearing in mind, for example, I know I can hit 45 leads rather than 30. Then once I hit 30, I get the rest of the money. Then after that, work off a percentage. So it just really incentivizes you. Of course, dialed down in your operations and your processes, but this is a really good approach. It only incentivizes you, incentivizes the client. You don't have to pay that much up front, so they're not as scared to go forward with it. So it's just a whole nice process. So yeah, if you're starting out, go for this hybrid model, see what works for you. You might have to do a free trial, but I don't suggest it. If you're already struggling, for example, set your goals, set your targets. If you're struggling after 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, whatever it may be, going for a free trial, try to secure a customer that way. This has worked for loads of people. I just don't recommend it because of once you get, you've done what you need to do, then what happens next? Some of the clients run away and then you just wasted 3 months of your time for no reason or whatever it may be. So yeah, cool. Wrapping that up, that is literally it from me. Really excited to be back in here. Going to be hitting the space and making a mark and a statement this year. 2025 is a big year, so like, subscribe, follow, whatever. I'm going to have some links below as well. And peace!